I'm sorry, you thought I was going to get through this month and not talk about a film about sexy witches and heads rolling?
Musical styles are still a very important form of communication for our young people. Hi, I'm Joe Feinstein.
You know the deal, I'm on the road to 500 subscribers before the end of the year, so help your boy out. Now, originally, I was going to try to have this whole month as just Disney Channel original movies and just the Halloween ones, but after the first 2 episodes and after the little vampire episode, I kind of broke my brain, so I really needed a break, so I wanted to look at something else. Our leads are played by Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci, 2 actors who I've loved for a very long time now, and I don't think their careers need any sort of explanation. But the rest of the cast is just as damn impressive. Casper Van Diem from Starship Troopers and Mortal Kombat Legacy, Michael Goff, who also played in 1989's Batman as Alfred, the Emperor himself, Ian McDiarmid, is here, Jeffrey Jones from Beetlejuice, and we have an amazing trio of Harry Potter actors. Michael Gambon, who played Dumbledore, Miranda Richardson, who played Rita Skeeter, and Richard Griffiths, who played Uncle Vernon. And also, I guess you do have to count Johnny Depp, since he did play Grindelwald in the Fantastic Beasts films, but it's mostly that core trio. I wanted to save the director for last, which is Tim Burton. I may have touched on this in the past as far as my feelings on him, but just to kind of make it fully transparent, I really don't think he deserves all the hype and praise he's received over the years. I think he's a fine director, don't misunderstand, and you're certainly allowed to like his work. I'm not discounting you for that. I'm just saying, when I see his filmography, the only things I see that are actually worth the hype he's been graced with would be 1989's Batman, Sweeney Todd in 2007, and the very film we're talking about today. Also, yes, Christopher Walken is in this as well, but we don't have time, okay? We gotta move on.
You're talking to me all wrong. It's the wrong tone. You do it again, I'll stab you in the face with a soldering iron.
I love damn near everything about this film, so I just want to start with what I love most, which is actually the portrayal of Ichabod himself. I find him to be a wonderfully written character. He's not a fears nothing, willing to do anything kind of person. We get to see a very complex character. He's a man of science and experimentation.
We do not yet know the cause of death.
When you find him in the river, cause of death is drowning.
Possibly so if there is water in the lungs, but by pathology we might be able to determine whether or not he was dead before he went into the river.
He believes in bringing fair justice.
What do you believe in?
Sense and reason. Cause and consequence.
Stand down!
I stand up for sense and justice.
But at the same time, he's a normal man who not only has small fears and dislikes, but shows actual fear and runs at several points. Above all else, he's a man with convictions, still struggling to understand the world, and struggles to have the world understand him. And I really love the short conversation he has with Katrina about truth and appearance, because it perfectly sums up how he sees the world and why he's so inquisitive.
Separate pictures which become one in the spinning. It is truth, but truth is not always appearance.
And while we're on the subject of that cardinal imagery, it is actually a great subtle device to show where Ichabod is during his journey. Now, he keeps a cardinal as a pet at home as a constant reminder of that philosophy, but when he leaves for Sleepy Hollow, he decides to let the bird go since he isn't sure if he's coming back. When he spots one while with Katrina, it helps explain his point of view, as I mentioned a moment ago, since at that point he believes that there can't be a horseman. But when he meets with the witch and the cardinal is killed, it's a wonderful way to show Ichabod that in this instance, truth is absolutely appearance. Now, most people would say Jack Sparrow is their favorite Depp character, but for me, it's Ichabod all the way. Now let's take a brief moment and talk about the film's villain. And no, I don't mean the horseman, I mean the real villain, Lady Van Tassel. The film does an incredible job at making most everyone seem suspicious at some point. It makes you focus on the town elders of the community constantly arguing behind closed doors just to keep the main suspicion on them. But even other characters throughout the film, like Jonathan and Katrina, end up getting these small moments of shifty eyes and trying to peek into what Ichabod is writing and doing. But who's the one person who only ever tries to be helpful and quiet? It's Lady Van Tassel. She's the one who invites Ichabod in to stay in their home so she can ultimately keep tabs on him. She swoops in while Ichabod is having his fever after the fight to try and glean any information as far as what he knows. And she's the one taking care of him to make sure she knows when he's up and about. She throws him off the trail by just pretending to be an adulterous wife, but it was Agatha all along. And what's crazy is, she only really had one small tell throughout the film, and it was when we first arrived and met her. After she invites him to stay, you can clearly see her force a smile and grip the parchment holder tightly. It's just a really great setup and payoff. Now, before I get to my one silly nitpick, I do want to talk about some of the other smaller fun things and just throw in some memes. The opening sequence spells out the real reason for the deaths without you realizing it at first. Anytime a film can do that successfully, I always have to give them props. And not counting the human ones, there's actually a lot of head imagery scattered throughout the film, and I do just think that's a really fun detail. Also, younger Johnny Depp and Timothée Chalamet look very similar, so when Crane is at the funeral and he's dressed like that and the wind is blowing in his hair, all I could think of was, and since we have Dumbledore here and he dies, you know I had to do it, because the horseman hit him with that Avada Kedavra. Now, you know me. Even with things I love, I also love to find nitpicks within them. And in this film, I only really have two, and the larger one sort of falls into the smaller one. Jonathan's dad is the dumbest person in this whole story, and I'm kind of glad he got taken by the horseman, quite frankly. So he's on guard duty, right? The fog rolls in and the horseman starts riding in. So he fires a single shot off screen. Then, rather than running for help at literally any of the buildings behind him, he decides to run into the woods. The woods! The place the horseman lives! He's a moron. But then, when Ichabod investigates the murder the next morning, he somehow has a powder that can tell when people have had their head cut off without the powder touching the body?
That's not how the Force works.
Seriously, all the jokes and memes aside, I do really love this film. So, by chance, if you haven't seen it yet, then I really encourage you to do so. And even if you have seen it...
3 words for you. Treat yourself.
Stop the presses!
To all of my ghosts, ghouls, goblins, and girls with the gyat, I welcome you to my soon-to-be famous segment, 6 Sleepy Degrees of Hollow Muppets. Shut up. This film had a small bit part from Christopher Lee, who was in Star Wars Episode 2 with Natalie Portman, who was in Black Swan with Winona Ryder, who was in Stranger Things with David Harbour, who was in Hellboy with Ian McShane, who was in Kung Fu Panda with Jack Black, who appeared in 2011's The Muppets. As usual, if you stick around to the end, I really thank you for watching. Do keep an eye out for my channel. At the end of this month, I'm going to do a large retrospective between you and us, and here just at the end, just for you. It is going to be based on one of the big horror franchises, so if that narrows it down for you, you're welcome, hopefully. If you got anything that I should be covering, whether it's at the end of the year, I'm going to be starting to branch out in terms of maybe doing some animated stuff, maybe doing some TV series. So if you got any suggestions, please feel free to let me know. And as always, I'm curious, what do you think?
Musical styles are still a very important form of communication for our young people. Hi, I'm Joe Feinstein.